Hello everyone, my name is Honor and today I'm bringing to you a new build in Shadowkeep for the Warlock Stormcaller. This is a pretty simple build that's going to allow you to consistently build your Stormcaller super in about 30 to 45 seconds. So with the recent 2.6.0.0 update that hit Destiny 2 when Shadowkeep launched, super regen and the amount of super gain from picking up Orbs of Light has been massively nerfed. So if you played the game prior to that update, you were probably getting around 3 to 4 supers on average in just your usual strike, but now you're probably only getting maybe 1 or 2 supers in your average strike. With this build, however, I've been able to get my Stormcaller super as if it's almost one of my regular abilities, getting 6, 7, sometimes up to 8 supers in strikes depending on length. I tested it in the match-made 920 power level Nightfall and was able to get about 7 supers off on average. So first we're going to talk about the pieces of the build and how they function, and then we're going to talk about how to put it all together. So the main part of the build is going to be the Warlock Exotic Helmet Crown of Tempests. And that's going to be used in combination with the Enhanced Ashes to Assets mod, which is a mod that goes on your class item. And we're also going to be working with the Anti-Barrier Rounds and Breach Refractor mods from the Season of Undying seasonal artifact. So let's talk about Crown of Tempest first. So Crown of Tempest has an exotic perk called Conduction Tines, which says that arc ability kills will increase the recharge rate of your arc abilities and extend the duration of Storm Trance. So this buff lasts for 6 seconds whenever you get an arc ability kill, so that's going to be your grenade ability, your melee ability, and also your super. And it's going to last for about 6 seconds. This buff stacks up to 3 times, so if you were to say land a grenade that got 3 kills, you'd get Conduction Tines times 3 for 6 seconds. Now, during that 6 second window, if you get another arc ability kill, so let's say you get a grenade kill and then you get an arc ability kill afterwards, that will refresh the timer of the buff back to 6 seconds. So you can extend the Conduction Tines buff all the way up to almost 12 seconds. And so while that buff is active, all of your abilities and your super will be recharging very quickly if you have the buff stacked up to times 3. So then we're going to combo that with Enhanced Ashes to Assets. So what does this mod do? This is a mod that gives you a large amount of super energy every time you get a grenade kill. This is a 4 cost mod for your class item, and it is a random drop. I was able to get mine from the Nightfall. I think I got it from the 920 power level Nightfall as a reward at the end of the Nightfall, and I'm not sure if it drops anywhere else, but that's where I got mine from. And so every grenade kill that you get while you have this perk equipped is going to give you a big chunk of your super. It looks like about 10% of your super per grenade kill, and it's also going to proc Conduction Tines from Crown of Tempests, which will allow you to regenerate your abilities quickly. So you're basically going to be cycling between throwing a grenade to get the buff stacked up and getting your grenade back really quickly because of the Conduction Tines buff, and throwing a grenade again, and all this while you are getting huge chunks of super energy and regenerating your super very quickly because of the Conduction Tines buff and the Enhanced Ashes to Assets mod. Now, the other two components of this build are going to be Breach Refractor and Anti-Barrier Rounds. So Breach Refractor is a mod from the seasonal artifact in the 4th column that reads, grants grenade energy on final blows with shield-piercing weapons, or when a member of your fire team shuts down a barrier champion's ability. So this is a 3-cost mod for chest armor pieces. It can go on any polarization, solar, arc, void, it doesn't matter what your chest armor is, it will go on it if you unlock this mod in the artifact. And Anti-Barrier Rounds is a mod from the seasonal artifact from the 2nd column, which there's 2 different kinds of. You can get it for either auto rifles and SMGs or hand cannons. And this is a mod that's going to go on one of those 3 types of weapons. So combining these 2 mods allows you to get your grenade back from empty with 11 kills. And so these are going to be supplementing your grenade recharge in case you get a grenade that maybe doesn't get 3 kills, maybe it only gets 1 or 2 kills, or maybe you miss a grenade, or maybe your teammates kill enemies before your grenade actually hits. That's what Anti-Barrier Rounds and Breach Refractor is there to make up for. So, now that we've gone over all of the pieces of the build, you'll notice in the background footage, there is an example of me using this build in the 920 power level match made Nightfall for this week. And so you are probably wondering what particular tree of Stormcaller that this build works best with. Now, I did test this build with all 3 trees, ability trees for Stormcaller. I tried it with top tree, I tried it with middle tree, I tried it with bottom tree. It does work with all 3, but the tree where this build really shines is going to be top tree Stormcaller, the Attunement of Conduction. And the reason for that is going to be because of the Arc Web perk, which allows your grenade hits and your melee ability hits to chain lightning to nearby enemies. And each of those chain lightning hits will also return additional grenade energy to you, and if those chain lightning hits kill enemies, those count as grenade kills, so that will further give you more chunks of your super energy back because you have enhanced ashes to assets. So one well-placed grenade, if there's a large amount of enemies and you get a lot of chain lightning procs, can get you a third of your super up to half of your super from the grenade kills plus the Conduction Tines ability recharge. So in terms of what grenades you actually want to be using for this, all 3 Warlock Stormcaller grenades are actually great choices. I find that one of the easiest to use, one of the most consistent, is going to be Arc Bolt. But Storm grenades also work well if you are good at placing those grenades. Pulse grenades can work. The only problem with pulse grenades that I found is occasionally throwing the grenade will knock enemies out of the radius of the pulse. And so if you're running top tree Stormcaller with Arc Web, sometimes the Arc Web can save you and the Chain Lightning will actually finish the enemies off. But if you're not running top tree and you're using Pulse Grenade, you may find that your grenade knocks enemies out of the radius and actually doesn't kill them, which means you won't be getting that Conduction Tines buff, which means you won't be getting the ability recharge, you won't be getting your grenade back to continue recharging your super very quickly. So I really highly recommend using top tree Stormcaller for this build, and probably either Arc Bolt or Storm Grenade. And so your goal when using this build is to try and look for groups of 3 enemies or more to throw your grenade at. That way you get your buff stacked up to 3 times Conduction Tines, and then in order to maximize the uptime of the buff, what you're going to want to try and look for before the buff timer runs out is an additional melee kill. And as long as you get that combo off, you will probably get your grenade back. And then you rinse and repeat. You'll get another grenade kill, you'll use your SMG or your auto rifle or your hand cannon with the anti-barrier rounds to make sure that you're getting grenade energy back, and you keep chaining those grenades until you get your super, and then you can pop your super freely. The other thing about the Warlock Stormcaller super with this build on is that getting kills with your supers also stacks up that Conduction Tines buff. So you'll see that when your super ends, if your buff is still at ×3 and lasting the full 6 seconds, that after your super is over, you can get up to a quarter of your super back just from having the lingering buff from having your super activation. And so that's a really awesome start towards your next super. It means that you'll have to get less grenade kills, less melee kills before you get your next super, and you can build one very quickly afterwards. So the meat of this build is revolving around that enhanced ashes to assets, getting those grenade kills so that you can get Conduction Tines buff stacked up from your exotic helmet. And the reason we have the Breach Refractor mod and the anti-barrier rounds mod on your weapon is just in case you get unlucky. You know, maybe your grenade didn't quite reach as far as you thought it would, maybe your teammates killed the enemies, maybe you didn't land a good enough grenade. That's where your weapon comes in to help you build that grenade energy back so you can keep chaining and keep building those supers. You only need 11 enemy kills if your grenade is completely empty with an anti-barrier round weapon to fully recharge your grenade. You'll need even less if you already have part of your grenade energy charged back. And if you really want to min-max this build, using a Demolitionist weapon, like an auto rifle with Demolitionist on it, or a hand cannon with Demolitionist on it, with Breach Refractor and anti-barrier rounds, you only need 6 kills from an empty grenade in order to get your grenade back really quickly. So you can combo those together to really get making sure you're getting a lot of grenades and getting that super built really quickly. And to really cap things off, the best thing about this build is that it's not dependent on getting really good rolls on the armor for your stats. It's not depending on getting really good discipline to get your grenade back, because really you're not relying on the base cooldown of your grenade, or the base cooldown of your melee ability, or the base cooldown of your super to get really fast super recharge. You're relying on the Crown of Tempest buff interaction with enhanced ashes to assets to get you really fast super regen and really fast grenade regen from your grenade kills alone. So even if you don't have a god rolled armor pieces, this build will still work well. Now, if you do have really well rolled armor, that's nice to have. It's just another one of those fail safes, another built-in redundancy in case you don't land one of those perfect grenades, or you don't land a good grenade, or you miss, so that you do get those abilities back quickly and you're allowed to keep chaining those supers. So that's the build in action, and hope you guys try it out. If you guys have comments or feedback, let me know down below. And thanks for watching, and look out for hopefully more builds in the future. For the remainder of the video, I'm going to let the background nightfall footage play out, but as always, likes and subscriptions are always appreciated.
she comes. is dead.
This is a relief to hear. But Hashladun's presence is no coincidence. The Hive must have grander ambitions for the Pyramid's influences. Return to me. There is much to discuss.